I want you to just, take a second and think about the last time you were scrolling through your feed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you ever notice a post just mysteriously vanish? Or maybe your timeline was suddenly just flooded with this highly controversial narrative seemingly out of nowhere.
Right. And most people, I mean, you might assume it's just some random algorithmic glitch. Right.
Exactly. But what if I told you that, like, throwing away perfectly good posts
Yeah.
and intentionally keeping these highly toxic users around is actually a calculated profit maximizing strategy?
It is. It's wildly counterintuitive, but it's true.
Because, I mean, what you see, and maybe more importantly, what is carefully hidden from you, it's all the output of this massive economic machine.
Oh, absolutely. Every single piece of information that actually survives that whole journey to your screen,
Good.
it's navigated this like incredibly complex gauntlet.
Right.
It's been filtered through financial incentives, technological blind spots, and even just the literal structural limitations of the servers hosting it. I mean, it is entirely by design.
Yeah, so today we've got a really great stack of sources to help us kind of peek behind that curtain.
Yeah.
We're doing a deep dive into this eye-opening academic paper from the Wharton School.
Which is fascinating, by the way.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
And it explores the hidden economic incentives of content moderation. Plus, we've got a comprehensive module that breaks down modern journalism revenue models and tech policy analysis covering all the rising chaos of moderation on these new decentralized networks.
It's a lot to cover, but it all connects.
It totally does.
Yeah.
So our mission in this deep dive is to basically understand how money, imperfect technology, and server architecture are secretly curating your reality. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, so you're right.
Starting with, the traditional foundation of information, which is the money behind the news.
Right. And that foundation is so crucial because, well, I mean, a news organization is fundamentally a business.
Right.
Journalists require paychecks, and the literal source of those paychecks alters the reality that actually gets reported. So if you look at the media landscape, it's dominated by what we call the Big Six. So that's Disney, National Amusements, Comcast, Sony, Time Warner, and Nucor.
It's just wild to think about.
It really is. Combined, they control this staggering $430 billion in assets.
Wait, 430 billion?
Yeah, billion. Ultimately, like 90% of the media we consume traces back to just those six massive conglomerates.
Wow. And I mean, when 6 global entities are kind of pulling the strings, the actual mechanics of what gets produced, it has to change, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you own 200 local stations, it is vastly cheaper to just produce one broader national narrative and syndicate it across the entire country than it is to, fund 200 independent local reporters.
Exactly. The financial structure literally demands scale, and that leads directly to this massive decline in local news that we've seen and this oversaturation of national politics.
Right, because the product is essentially molded by whatever revenue model is keeping the outlet afloat.
Yep, every single time.
So, like, the most prevalent framework is obviously the ad-based model, which we traditionally see with outlets like BuzzFeed or the New York Times.
Right.
And the core transaction there is super simple.
Yeah.
Advertisers pay the outlet gives you free or at least heavily subsidized content, and in exchange, your attention is harvested and sold.
Yeah, you are the product.
Exactly. But then you contrast that with the subscription model, where you, the user, pay a recurring fee.
Right.
And there, the goal isn't just mass attention for advertisers. It's about providing this unique, high-value content that you can't just easily find for free by Googling it.
Right, the incentive shift. But then, you also have the alternatives that try to escape those corporate pressures altogether, so the nonprofit and government-funded models.
Right.
On the nonprofit side, you have organizations like ProPublica or the Associated Press, and they rely really heavily on donor funding. And on the government side, you have entities like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the CPB, which was actually established way back in 1967 by Lyndon B. Johnson.
Right. But I really want to push back on this, like, highly idealistic notion that just because an outlet is a nonprofit or, takes government money, that it's somehow pure or free from bias.
Oh, totally.
Because our sources highlight that government funding for public media right now accounts for less than 0.01% of the federal budget.
It's tiny.
It's nothing. And critics point out that even taking a dime of government funding, it inherently compromises your independence.
Yeah, and the academic research totally supports that skepticism, too. There's a report from the University of East Anglia that shows how relying on foundation funding fundamentally alters the reporting process itself.
How so?
Well, nonprofits basically get trapped in this endless cycle of having to woo wealthy philanthropists year after year just to survive.
Oh, right, because if the donor doesn't like the coverage, they pull the plug.
Exactly. And the Institute for Nonprofit News actually found that these massive philanthropic injections, they tend to really only benefit a select few national startups. So local news deserts are just left completely unaddressed. I mean, no matter the source, the funding mechanism changes the journalism.
That's like a restaurant, right?
Okay, I like that.
Think about it. The menu changes drastically depending on who the chef is actually cooking for.
Oh, yeah.
If the chef is catering to this billionaire patron, you get a highly curated, very specific menu designed for that exact palate.
Right.
But if the restaurant is relying on cheap ads printed on those paper placemats, the whole strategy shifts to mass-producing fast food just to get as many bodies through the door as humanly possible.
Yeah, turn those tables over.
Exactly. And if they're operating on, like, government rations, well, then the menu is strictly dictated by whatever the state provisions allow them to have.
That's a perfect way to look at it. The revenue model literally dictates the product, period.
Yeah. And the thing is, this logic of money shaping reality, it absolutely doesn't stop at traditional newsrooms.
Oh, no, not at all.
It maps perfectly onto the user-generated chaos of social media platforms. I mean, content moderation is always debated as this huge moral issue.
Right, the whole free speech versus safety debate.
Exactly. But the financial data in our sources frames it entirely differently. It's just a marketing tool.
Yeah, and that's where the Wharton paper is just particularly illuminating because it completely strips away all the partisan politics.
Which is refreshing.
It really is. It analyzes content moderation strictly through the lens of profit maximization. So to understand their model, we really have to focus on how platforms handle content that the vast majority of users universally agree is harmful.
So we're talking about graphic violence, illegal activities, stuff like that.
Exactly. The platforms aren't trying to be the moral arbiters of the internet here. They are just trying to stop financial hemorrhaging.
Right. And I mean, just the sheer scale of the investment proves it's a massive business imperative.
Yeah.
Like back in 2019, Mark Zuckerberg announced Facebook was going to spend $3.7 billion just on content moderation.
Which is why.
It's crazy. That was roughly 5% of their total revenues at the time. That single line item for moderation was larger than Twitter's entire annual revenue.
Wow.
Yeah. And the user surveys from Morning Consult, they explain the exact business case for this. They found that 80% of users want hate speech removed and 73% want violent crimes removed. Interestingly, though, only 66% wanted sexual acts removed.
Huh. But what's fascinating here is that we have to look objectively at how platforms are actually defining extreme content.
Right.
In this economic model, extreme simply means whatever the vast majority of a specific user base finds highly objectionable.
Just whatever makes the average user want to leave.
Exactly. The Wharton researchers use this economic concept of utility to explain the dynamic. And utility is basically just a measure of the value or satisfaction that someone gets from doing something. So on a social platform, a user gains utility either from posting content themselves or from reading other people's content.
Right. So if the quiet majority of users gets this massive dose of negative utility from constantly reading graphic or toxic garbage, they're just going to close the app. And the platform loses eyeballs, which means they lose ad revenue. It's just math.
It's just math. And that is the absolute core tension for an ad-based platform. Their primary directive is maximizing the raw size of their user base, right? But the users who post the really extreme, controversial content, they're often hyper-engaged. Like, they gain a tremendous amount of utility from posting, and they generate so much activity.
Yeah, they're posting constantly.
Right. But if the massive block of moderate users cares more about the quality of what they read than their own freedom to post, the platform has a serious problem.
So how do they solve it?
They prune the extreme users. They basically sacrifice a small, highly active cohort of posters to make the whole environment palatable for the massive, very lucrative demographic of moderate readers.
Wow.
So they are literally purchasing a larger user base through moderation.
That makes so much sense. But then if a platform shifts to a subscription model, that whole maximizing raw headcount logic kind of has to fall apart, right?
Exactly.
Because if I'm paying a premium subscription fee, my threshold for encountering absolute garbage in my feed is going to be significantly lower.
Oh, way lower.
Right, so I would assume a subscription platform has to moderate far more aggressively just to justify the cost.
So they do moderate more aggressively when they take action. But surprisingly, they actually moderate less often overall compared to the ad-based platforms.
Wait, really? Less often?
Yeah, because a subscription platform isn't hunting for massive scale, it's optimizing for willingness to pay.
Oh, okay.
The upfront subscription fee acts as this natural filter. It screens out a ton of casual, moderate users, and it leaves this smaller, highly invested user base. Because the community is naturally gated by price, the platform just doesn't need to intervene constantly.
Okay, that makes sense. But the paper notes that when they do actually intervene, they combine it with another tactic, right?
Yeah. Yes. They pull a second lever, which is price adjustments.
Okay.
When a subscription platform decides to enforce really strict moderation, they often pair it with a slight price drop.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this strategy carefully curates this highly satisfied, moderate user base that's willing to pay a premium over the long haul. So moderation is being used to elevate the perceived value of the product. They're optimizing revenue through the fee rather than just raw user headcount.
Okay, so understanding those financial incentives is clearly only half the battle, because here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The actual execution of this moderation relies super heavily on artificial intelligence.
Right.
And this technology, as we all know, is a notoriously blunt instrument.
Very blunt.
Right, because AI struggles immensely with linguistic nuance, sarcasm, historical context, all of it.
The limitations of algorithmic moderation are incredibly well documented.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this perfectly in 2018 when a Facebook algorithm flagged the actual Declaration of Independence as hate speech.
I remember that.
Right. The AI detected this historical slur within the text, completely failed to grasp the historical context of the document, and just automatically removed it.
Yep.
But if these platforms are printing billions and billions of dollars, you would assume they would spare no expense to develop or acquire a perfect algorithm, right?
You'd think so.
Like one that catches 100% of the harmful material and makes zero mistakes with benign content.
Right. Logic completely dictates that they would want perfect technology. But the math from the Wharton paper reveals this super counterintuitive reality. An ad-based platform might actually prefer an imperfect AI, even if a flawless algorithm were offered to them completely free of charge.
See, I have to pause here because from a business standpoint, deliberately wanting your technology to make errors just sounds absurd. Why on earth would a profit-driven company want a sloppy algorithm?
Well, it loops right back to the goal of maximizing the user base. So let's assume the psychological cost to a moderate user of having their totally benign post mistakenly deleted is relatively low.
Okay, like I might be annoyed, but I'm probably not going to delete my whole account over it.
Exactly. They won't delete the app. So an imperfect AI allows the platform to operate this very specific numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
The blunt algorithm accidentally lets a few highly engaged extreme users slip through the cracks. And these extreme users generate massive amounts of engagement and traffic.
Right.
But simultaneously, the sloppy AI accidentally deletes some perfectly fine, moderate posts.
So the platform is just absorbing the deletion of good content as acceptable collateral damage.
Exactly.
By intentionally operating in this messy, sloppy middle ground, they manage to keep the hyperactive extreme users on the platform generating traffic.
Yep.
And because the moderate users are relatively forgiving of these occasional algorithmic mistakes, they stick around too. Throwing away perfectly good content actually inflates the total headcount, which maximizes ad revenue.
It is the optimal profit-maximizing strategy for an ad-driven model. It's crazy, but it works.
It sounds exactly like a bouncer at one of those massive mega clubs.
Oh, I like this. Go on.
Okay, so the bouncer occasionally kicks out a totally quiet, normal patron by mistake because he's just blindly grabbing people in the dark.
Yeah, just collateral damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he also intentionally looks the other way when a few incredibly rowdy, chaotic people sneak in. Because those rowdy people, they're buying expensive drinks, they are getting everyone on the dance floor, and they make the club look absolutely packed from the street.
Right.
The club owner isn't asking the bouncer for perfect accuracy. The owner only cares that the room is full and the cash registers are ringing.
That analogy captures the economic incentive perfectly. But apply that exact same bouncer to the VIP country club, which is our subscription model.
Oh.
The country club requires a bouncer with absolute flawless accuracy. Subscription platforms always demand perfect technology because they directly internalize the benefits of a pristine, heavily curated environment through those higher membership fees.
Because any mistake degrades that premium product.
Exactly.
The sources also introduced this concept called the social planner to really highlight this contrast.
Yes, this is important.
A social planner is basically this economic construct representing an entity that optimizes strictly for the total welfare of humanity, not for corporate profit.
Right, and the Warden paper notes that a true social planner would always demand a perfect moderation tool, because their only objective would be to remove users who contribute a net negative utility to society as a whole. Whereas ad-based platforms, as we just established, they intentionally keep those net negative users around simply because it boosts the total user count.
Well, I mean, if ad models intentionally tolerate a frustrating, sloppy environment just to pump up their engagement numbers, it is really no wonder that users are reaching a breaking point.
Oh, completely.
People are exhausted,
Exhausted
by the algorithms, the advertisements, and just these centralized billionaires dictating all the rules. And we saw a massive wave of this frustration materialize when Elon Musk purchased Twitter.
We really did.
Users didn't just log off, they began migrating to entirely different digital architectures.
Right. They sought refuge in decentralized networks. So we're looking at the rise of the Fediverse, platforms like Mastodon, Bluesky, and Threads.
Yeah.
And these operate on underlying technical protocols, primarily things like ActivityPub or the AT protocol.
So to break that down, think of a protocol kind of like the underlying rules of email, right? It doesn't matter if you are using a Gmail account and I'm using an Outlook account. The underlying email protocol allows our entirely different servers to talk to each other seamlessly.
Exactly.
Decentralized social media works the exact same way.
Yeah.
You don't join one massive corporate server. You join a specific independent server, which is often called an instance.
Right.
And it's run by a specific person or a small community. And the tech policy researchers observe that on these independent servers, quote, vibes matter a lot.
Which is such a funny phrase for an academic paper, but this raises an important question, right?
Yeah.
Vibes in this context actually means that moderation policies are entirely subjective. They are dictated by the volunteer administrators running that specific server.
Right.
So without a central CEO maximizing a revenue model and without a multi-billion-dollar AI budget, the rules of reality are basically determined by whoever is literally paying for that specific server space.
Wow.
They decide who gets an account, what the speech boundaries are, and ultimately what gets deleted.
But escaping that profit matrix doesn't necessarily mean escaping the problems.
No, not at all.
The tech policy analysis outlines how this architecture creates this completely novel moderation nightmare. Because when you introduce bad actors into a system designed for open communication across all these independent servers, you get this phenomenon called chain of posts abuse.
Yeah, and the mechanism of chain of post abuse, it actually exploits the very nature of decentralization.
I see.
Because servers are interconnected, right? So a bad actor on server A can target a user on server B.
Okay.
When the bad actor replies or tags that user, the abusive content doesn't just sit in one central database like on Facebook or Twitter. It gets replicated and distributed across server C, server D, and server E, wherever those users happen to interact.
Oh, man. It functions like a hydra.
Yes.
Like if you're the target of that abuse on a traditional centralized platform, you just report it to one corporate entity and they scrub it from the central database, theoretically.
Right.
But on a decentralized network, you are suddenly forced to navigate a labyrinth of conflicting server policies. You have to track down the abuse across multiple instances and report the exact same content repeatedly to dozens of different volunteer admins.
And the burden on these volunteer administrators is just immense. I mean, they are frequently confronted with these really large-scale coordinated abuse campaigns, and they simply lack the enterprise-grade tools to handle it.
Because they're just volunteers.
Exactly. Furthermore, if a persistent abuser is finally banned by an admin on one server, the abuser can just simply spin up a new account on a different server that happens to have a more lenient policy regarding repeat offenders.
Oh, of course.
The protocol just allows them to instantly reconnect with the network, and the abuse cycle resumes all over again.
It is an incredible irony, honestly. Users fled the profit-driven, flawed AI bouncers of big tech.
Yeah.
Only to find themselves totally trapped in a fragmented bureaucratic nightmare, relying on exhausted digital neighborhood watch committees to protect them.
That is exactly what it is.
So how is the decentralized community attempting to fix this structural vulnerability?
Well, the tech policy piece outlines a few initiatives currently in development to try and equip these volunteer admins. So there is a push for open source tooling, such as a community-based tool called Uli, which is designed specifically to tackle coordinated online abuse.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and there are also broader efforts to establish information sharing networks between the independent server admins.
Like what?
Programs like Lantern and the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, or GIFCT, they're being integrated into the decentralized space now.
No, wait. Programs like GIFCT are traditionally utilized for tracking incredibly severe, like universally illegal content, right? Like terrorism or child sexual abuse material.
Yes, exactly.
So how do independent servers share information about that level of content without violating user privacy or, forcing everyone to download illegal files just to know what to block?
Oh, that's a great question. They utilize cryptographic hashes.
Okay, what's that?
So instead of sharing the actual raw images or videos, they share a unique digital fingerprint, which is the hash of the known illegal file.
I see.
So if a server admin plugs into that shared database, their server will just automatically recognize the fingerprint and immediately block the file from being uploaded or replicated on their instance.
Okay, well, sharing signals about universally illegal content is an obvious necessity. But the sources do point out that sharing general moderation block lists brings up a very valid fear of platform convergence.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge debate right now.
Right, because if thousands of independent servers all start subscribing to the exact same shared block lists and utilizing the exact same moderation tools, they slowly begin to operate like one giant homogenized platform. You accidentally recreate the centralized corporate matrix you were trying to escape, and you lose the unique culture of the independent servers.
It is a really delicate balancing act, and if an admin refuses to utilize those shared tools, or if a specific server becomes a known safe haven for bad actors and refuses to moderate harmful content, the rest of the network has a final, radical option.
The nuclear option.
Exactly, defederation.
Right. Defederation is essentially the nuclear option of the decentralized web.
It literally severs the technical connection entirely.
Wow.
So if Server A decides that Server B is harboring abusers, Server A can just choose to defederate from them. This cuts Server B and every single user on it completely off from communicating with anyone on Server A.
Just totally severed.
Yep. And while it definitely solves the immediate abuse problem for the administrators, it fundamentally fragments the community, which kind of breaks the whole promise of an open, interconnected network.
Man. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the really comprehensive picture we've mapped out for you today.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. We began by examining how traditional reality is shaped by the big six media conglomerates, where the news you consume is entirely dictated by whether an outlet is hunting for ad clicks, subscription fees, or philanthropic donor dollars.
Right. And we then pulled back the curtain on the mechanics of social media, revealing that the flawed algorithmic moderation frustrating you isn't necessarily broken at all.
Right.
Often, it is functioning exactly as intended. Ad-based platforms deliberately employ imperfect technology, absorbing the collateral damage of deleting good posts just to keep highly active, extreme users on the platform to inflate their metrics.
And then finally, we followed the migration of users trying to escape those profit-driven systems, only to discover that the decentralized web presents its own set of technical vulnerabilities. Because without billions of dollars in ad revenue funding centralized AI, moderation basically degrades into a fragmented, vibe-based reality, completely dependent on the stamina of volunteer administrators.
Exactly.
Every single post you see today and the thousands that have been algorithmically hidden from you, they are the direct end result of a specific corporate revenue model, a carefully calculated technological blind spot, or a volunteer admin's workload.
And honestly, recognizing this, it completely transforms how you interact with digital information. Because your online reality is not an organic occurrence. It is a meticulously manufactured economic output.
Which brings us all the way back to the theoretical concept of the social planner proposed in the Wharton research.
Right.
The theoretical entity that does not care about ad clicks, subscription revenue, or server vibes. The entity that optimizes strictly for the total welfare of humanity, ruthlessly removing any user whose net utility contribution to society is negative.
It's a fascinating thought experiment.
It is. So I want to leave you with a question to ponder the next time you open your feed. If a true social planner took over the internet tomorrow, optimizing strictly for the total welfare of humanity, would your favorite account survive the purge? Or would they be the very first ones cut?